And Chinese visitors are likely to be among those on the move in the U.S. over this holiday weekend. The number of Chinese travelers to the U.S. has rocketed in recent years. But the United States remains way down on the top destinations for them. CCTV's Philip Yin talked about this with Christopher Thompson, the head of marketing firm Brand USA. He began by asking what attracted Chinese people to these shores.
You know, international travel to the United States, our nation's #1 service export, so its footprint and its impact is becoming larger and larger. It always has been the case for many of our major gateways, which is how the Chinese traveler has arrived, because in order to get that kind of access. But yeah, and then when they come, they spread beyond the gateways, and that's really what we're trying to do, is promote to, through, and beyond the gateways.
As you probably know, over the past half decade or so, China has liberalized the number of folks that can leave China. More vacation visas are granted, essentially. So it's not just the U.S. that benefits from this. Europe benefits, and perhaps any other major destination in the world. But I wanted to ask you, when you think about the reasons why they come to the U.S., what is sort of your selling point where you're speaking at events and people ask you, well, why do the Chinese want to come to the U.S. besides some of the obvious reasons?
Well, it is a lot to do with the obvious reasons. The way that a lot of the Chinese know the United States is through our pop culture. So that might be movies and music from whatever generation that we're trying to attract the interest. So that is the initial hook, and that is the thing that makes travel to the United States aspirational. And then what we try to do, obviously, is take them not only to, but through and beyond the gateway that they're coming through. In many cases, not just China, but in a lot of different international audiences, it's what they don't know that is as compelling as what they do know. And so I think that the foundation of iconic things that they know about is certainly enough to capture their interest. And then because we know they're going to spend a week to 3 weeks, we want to be able to fill that time up for them, and then certainly cater to and appeal to whatever their individual needs are.
But there is an aspect of challenges that travelers also face coming to the U.S. And I'll just tell you the one that I hear most often from visitors who come here from Asia, and that is getting across the border, going through the customs. They say it's a hassle getting the visa. It's not cheap. It's expensive, in fact, by a lot of metrics. Your organization, are you helping address some of these issues to make it easier for not just the Chinese to come to the U.S., but for that matter, anybody in the world?
One of the biggest contributions of what's happened since we were brought into existence back in 2010 through the Travel Promotion Act was we now also have a national travel and tourism strategy. So that's a strategy that has empowered 9 federal agencies within the federal government that now recognize the importance of the travel and tourism as our #1 service export. So though we have no control over the entry process or even the visa process, we're charged by law to be able to communicate all that is good and improved about that, and make sure that we also clear up misperceptions. So shortly after 2010, the President called for efficiencies in visa processing. And back then, as you well know, there were 100-day wait times just to even be able to consider to get a visa. I know there's still probably challenges, but most of the wait times now are less than a week, and in some cases only a day, a couple days. He just recently in May issued an executive order to look at the entry process in 15 of our major airports.
He is in
the President. And in 15 of our major airports where we have the biggest challenges, to try to find efficiencies through the federal governments that are the agencies in the federal government that are responsible for that. So though we still have some challenges ahead and we have some improvements that we need to try to reach, I think that the landscape of travel from China, both on the visa side and the entry side, has improved pretty dramatically over the last 4 years.
I know you have a lot on your plate. 2015, what's your biggest initiative you want to take on?
Well, we're only in our 4th year of operation, so we expanded our footprint last year to over 30 markets that we're now active in, and that covers about 90% of all the international travel inbound. So it's the optimization of that footprint, because as you can imagine, and probably the best example of that, we're now marketing in countries where we're having to navigate the cultures and the mediums, and that's a challenge when you have your footprint spread that big. But one of the neat initiatives that we're doing is, and I think the Chinese recognize this, some of the most iconic things we have in this country are our national parks, and in August of 2016, at the 100th anniversary of the National Park Service. So we're producing a big screen film that is going to tell the story of all there is to see and do in the United States through the lens of the national parks. And we're going to debut that in all the major big screen theaters and IMAX theaters around the world. And one of the countries that has the fastest growth in that medium is China. I think right now there may be less than 100 screens like that in the entire country. And I think I was told, I can't say this for sure, that by the time the movie's going to be debuted, there's going to be over 300. So we're going to use those theaters as a way to promote the country, and then otherwise activate around that with the travel trade and the travel media.